Hi everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new video. I'm doing a video that I intended to do for quarter one, but we're doing it for quarter two instead. I read some amount of books. You can also see that I'm coloring behind me, but I want to tier rank all of the books that I read in quarter two. I figured this can be a fun way for us to talk about the books that I read in April, May, and June, but also for me to tell you which books were my favorite of those 3 months. So without further ado, here's the version of me that recorded this tier ranking.
So here we are with my Q2 books rankings. These are all of the books that I read in April, May, and June. As you know, I barely read in June, and I figured it'd be fun if we sat down and I went through all of them tier ranking style. I don't know how many books I read. I want to say something like 20, who knows? But I, of course, made all of these Taylor Swift lyrics because I may be angry at her for certain things, but I'm still a Swiftie in my heart. So at the top in our kind of S tier, we have I want to wear his initial on a chain around my neck because these are my favorites. These are books that I'm obsessing over, that I think about all the time, and that I just absolutely adored. Then we have Never Go Out of Style, a solid read, probably somewhere around a 4-star. Absolutely loved it. Maybe a new all-time favorite, but certainly still had some flaws. August Slipped Away, because I don't fucking remember this. Slipped away like a moment in time because I read this book. Apparently I did. And we have Screaming at the Sky because I did not like this. Maybe it was okay, but for some reason or another, after I read this book, I had to go outside and scream at the fucking sky. And then we have If You Tasted Poison, You Could Have. The full lyric being, if you tasted poison, you could have spit me out at the first chance. And perhaps that is what I should have done when I started reading these books. So without further ado, let's rank all of the books that I have read throughout the second quarter of 2024. I'm going to start with A Lady for a Duke, which I'm going to put at Never Go Out of Style because I absolutely love this. This is a trans historical romance about a woman, a trans woman who comes back from war. Everyone presumes that she is dead when she has taken the opportunity to live as her true, authentic self. And the person who is most devastated by her death is her former best friend, who obviously does not recognize her as she is now. It is their love story. I thought this was so sweet and so cute. The only reason why this isn't top tier for me is specifically because I felt like it was just a touch too long and certain scenes felt like they dragged out, but I did really love this. Then I have Fangirl Down, which I'm putting at I want to wear his initial on a chain around my neck. Was this book the best book ever written? No. Would I even consider it a fantastic romance? Probably not, but I had a damn good time with it, and it is exactly what I needed at that time. This is a sports romance, specifically around golf, following golf's quote-unquote bad boy and his biggest fan. I'm going to repeat myself here because I said this in my reading vlog for this, but yes, she does in fact eat his ass like a cupcake. Then I have Thirst, which I'm also going to put at Never Go Out of Style. And the reason I'm putting it there is because I absolutely loved this book. This is a story about a vampire, and it is a translated works, and it is a vampire in Argentina, and you're just kind of following her life. And then in the second half of the story, you have a woman in present day who encounters this vampire. It's sapphic, it's queer. I really enjoyed this. I can see why people wouldn't enjoy this because it is very slow and literary. But if you know me, you know that I tend to like that in my horror. And I just loved it. Killing Stalking Volume 2, which I'm going to put at August Slipped Away. Not because I don't remember it, because I actually do remember it, but because it's the first volume. It's only the second book in this series about this boy who's a stalker, this man who's a stalker. And his infatuation, the man that he is stalking, he finds out he's a serial killer. But unfortunately for our main character, Mr. Serial Killer finds out that he knows, and now he's his captive. And it is a very dark and twisted story that I'm deeply fascinated by. However, book 2 introduced a cop POV. And if you have been here for a long time, if you are an OG subscriber of Shar Reads All Day, you will know that the reason why I DNF Tokyo Ghoul after volume 2 is because of the fucking cop POV. This had it. This book was super intense. It's August Slipped Away just because I couldn't put it any higher, but not because I don't remember it. Donut Under a Crescent Moon, I'm going to put in August Slipped Away. This is very slice of life. It is a sapphic workplace romance about two people who are exploring their identities. One of the female main characters is perhaps asexual or on the asexual and aromantic spectrum. I enjoyed this, but I did find it pretty forgettable. It is just a little bit too slice of life for me, and not a lot of really happens. It's them getting donuts and like talking. But if you enjoy slice of life mangas and you've been looking for a sapphic manga, then I would say you might enjoy Donuts Under a Crescent Moon. Then we have Entreat Me, which I did not technically give 5 stars, but it is still an all-time favorite. So I'm going to put it up to I want to wear his initial on a chain around my neck. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but we are following the father of the Beast character and the sister of the Beauty character, and their banter is just so top fucking tier. Grace Draven has done it again, is ultimately one of my favorite fantasy romance authors. Like, I just love it. Gravity by Tao. I can never pronounce this. This is a hockey romance that is so beautifully written. It is so like deep and emotionally complex. And it is a story of a man who is in the closet. He is queer. He is a hockey hero. He has a large fan base, but he is struggling with his identity and sense of self and just feeling like belonging and his future because he is a gay man and he does not feel comfortable coming out. When he goes to this retreat, he meets this up and coming hockey player who happens to be a fan of his. They get into a relationship, and this is just so good. It's not an all-time favorite because at times it can be a little bit melodramatic. And if you haven't seen my reading vlog for this, I'm going to explain this a little bit more here. But if you want to hear my full thoughts, I recommend that you check out that reading vlog. But what I mean by that is that the characters eventually start to speak in the exact same way, which is very, very high prose, almost purple prose, which felt too different from how they spoke at the beginning of the story and how they thought at the beginning of the story. Tapestry. I'm going to put this at Screaming at the Sky. This is a historical romance that I was reading for a historical romance book club. This book is technically 2 books in one. So like I've read book 1, but didn't read the second half of the book, which is book 2, Screaming at the Sky, because this is a kind of historical romance that if I read this, I would think I wasn't into historical romance. It's just a little bit too boring. After I read this, I did not, in fact, go scream at the sky, but internally, maybe I was screaming at the sky. Daphne by Josh Malerman, I'm also going to put at Screaming at the Sky, not because it was bad. I gave this book 3 stars. Just because it's not what I was expecting and I didn't enjoy it in the ways that I wanted to. Like, I did enjoy aspects of it, but I don't know how to describe it. Like, I was expecting so much more and it just did not give that to me. But this is the story of a legend for this basketball team of this woman named Daphne. And you're not supposed to think about Daphne or speak about Daphne because if you do, Daphne appears, and lo and behold, Daphne is appearing in this town. It is a big metaphor for OCD, but there is also actually like horror, physical horror going on in this town. It was certainly interesting, but if I'm screaming at the sky, I'm screaming at the sky because it was disappointing. Wow, just so many back to back. Caught Up, Screaming at the Sky. This is the 3rd book in the Windy City series by Liz Tomford. I read The Right Move and I absolutely loved it. And I was so excited to read Caught Up because our hero is a single dad. He's described as the Clark Kent of baseball, and it is a single dad nanny romance. I was ready to love this, and unfortunately, I just did not love it. I did not buy the relationship between these 2 characters and didn't personally see why they were together. I wish that there was more chemistry between them, but recognizing that there are plenty of people who adore this book and who could see the chemistry, I personally did not see the chemistry. An American Werewolf in Space, I cannot actually put into Never Go Out of Style. It certainly is a unique alien romance because it is about a woman who is a werewolf and she gets kidnapped onto this spaceship, except that these aliens don't know that she's a werewolf, so she shifts and she kills them all, and she ends up rescuing this big bad like massive alien who's described like Venom, but if Venom had 9 tails. And you know, she has a mate. She's a werewolf. It's her fated mate, and they have lots of sexy time but also try to survive. I really enjoyed this. It has such a unique spin, But I can't put it up here with books like A Lady for the Duke and Thirst and Gravity when it is actually just August Slipped Away. Don't let that mean that it's not memorable, because it certainly is. It's just not something that I could put as high up as these other books. Swift and Saddled, Screaming at the Sky. I wanted to love this. I really, really did. But just like I had issues with Caught Up, I had issues with Swift and Saddled for the same reasons. This is an interior designer. She falls for her boss, who's like the one who hired her to do this renovation of his ranch for this project that they're on. It's a cowboy romance because it's a ranch. I didn't believe the romance between the two of them. I felt like the author constantly told us traits about these characters, but didn't actually portray these traits in any meaningful ways in terms of how they interacted with each other. I felt like it was missing some depth. And ultimately, while I can see why people enjoy this book, I personally was not rooting for this couple. Zero Dark Bloodthirsty is the sequel to American Werewolf in Space. And just to help you out here, this alien creature, yeah, that's her mate. She's a baddie. Her mate's a baddie. He's just really, really, really scary. I'm going to put this in August Slipped Away. I enjoyed this. This is definitely more high sci-fi. There is like lots of like intergalactic battle going on. So if you like alien romance, but perhaps you like your alien romance with more political intrigue and more action, then you might enjoy this series. The Hollow Dead, never go out of style. I love this series so much. This is the Whispering Dead. I always call it that. I think it's called the Gravekeeper series. I absolutely love this series so much. This is the penultimate book in the series. It was such a good time. Yes, it felt like filler to an extent, and like not a lot really happened in this, but it still had very fun moments. But really, I'm here for the characters. I adore these characters so much by this point. It was a 4-star read, but never go out of style because I love this series. Devon and Chris plan a wedding. I read this in June, and I want to wear his initial on a chain around my neck. This is actually a sapphic romance, and this is a pretty unique premise. We have two people who go on a reality dating show, and the whole idea is that they have 90 days to convince their families that they have gotten engaged and are getting married. And the families and their friends have to believe them. And by the end, whoever makes it to the altar with everyone buying into the story ends up winning the prize. Devon and Chris are paired up. This is a story about a later in life coming out. They are such a fun, fantastic couple. The book is not super steamy, but the moments that have steam are really good. And I just loved this book so much. Obviously, it has to go in the top tier. This is How You Lose the Time War. I would put it in If You Tasted Poison, You Could Have Spit Me Out at the First Chance. However, that's too harsh because generally I just didn't understand what the hell was happening in this book. This is time traveling spy agents who send each other love letters. I liked the ending of this, but I was just generally confused the whole time. The purple prose with the extremely high sci-fi elements, it was too much. It was too much for me to understand. If I reread this, maybe I would enjoy this more, but I don't have an interest in rereading it. So Screaming at the Sky. Do Your Worst. Never go out of style. I could put it in August Slipped Away. Is it as good as the other books in this tier? No. However, I did really have a fun time in this, even if I thought some of it was a little silly and maybe sometimes the hero got on my nerves. But overall, it was just what I needed at a very tumultuous time in my life. So I have to put it up here because I did really enjoy it, and I'm glad that I really enjoyed it because I bought it. Last Devil to Die, I'm going to put in August Slipped Away, which may be a surprise to you all because, you know, if you watch my Second Chance series video where I read the entirety of the Thursday Murder Club series, you know that I really enjoyed The Last Devil to Die. But I enjoyed The Last Devil to Die within the context of the Thursday Murder Club series, which in general, I just think is a series that's a little bit overhyped. But I understand why it has the love that it does and that very unique premise of senior citizens, people in a retirement home solving murders and solving murder mysteries, and also tying that together with an overarching plot line. It has to be August Slipped Away because, quite frankly, every time I finished one of these books, did I remember what the mystery was? No. I remember this book more than the others, but it's still not something that I'm like, screaming from the rooftops about how good it is. Don't Want You Like a Best Friend. I gave this book 4 stars, and I could put it in Never Go Out of Style, But the truth is, I felt like it was a little bit slow. I really, really enjoyed this book and I loved the sapphic elements of it. If you saw my reading vlog, you also know that it made me cry, and you'll know that I'm eagerly anticipating the next book in this. I just felt this was a touch too long. When I think about my favorite historical romances or my favorite sapphic books, this book doesn't come top of mind for me. I'm so sorry, besties. If you tasted poison, it's going to have to go to one pucked up pack because I enjoyed the first half, but I did not enjoy the second half. So as soon as I tasted that poison, I in fact should have DNF'd the book. Not that it was actually poison. I know people love this book and there's nothing that's technically wrong with it. All of my issues with it are personal to me and what kind of books that I enjoy. And then Murder Road by Simone St. James. So I know that there are people who hate this book. I know. However, I didn't hate this book. It's not something that I'm going to put up here because it was very silly and ridiculous. However, I enjoyed it as a cheesy thriller. I kept that perspective. I was not expecting anything other than what it was. And because I'm familiar with Simone St. James' works, I knew that it's paranormal. That's not a spoiler. It genuinely says that in the premise, and it is paranormal. It goes to ridiculous places. It's definitely not a good book. It's not something that I would tell you is a good book. However, if you keep the mindset of it's supposed to be cheesy and ridiculous, and you ignore the fact that Simone St. James clearly had an idea and then just halfway through that idea was like, nah, all right, this story is done. Then it is fine for what it is. This is my final ranking for all of the books that I've read in the second quarter of 2024, and I'm going to cue it to outro me.
And so, besties, those are all of the books that I read in quarter two. These are my top favorites. I cannot say that I'm particularly surprised. I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what my reading looked like throughout those months, but I'm just happy that I got to talk to you about Devon and Chris Planned a Wedding because I loved that book, but I read it in June. It was the only book that I read in June, so you did not hear about it before. But with that said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you've gotten to the end of the video and you want to let me know that you have gotten to the end of the video, leave me the little wedding ring emoji, like the little diamond wedding ring, or anything related to weddings. And of course, for Devon and Chris, plan a wedding. And with that said, I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye!